Commander Jack Wilson stood at the far end of the Galactic Council chamber, his back straight despite the weight of Earth's expectations on his shoulders. The massive circular room sparkled with the holographic displays of over 30 alien civilizations. Some representatives appeared in person, while others projected their images across countless light years. Jack had served as Earth's representative for 5 years now, but the feeling of awe never quite faded, nor did the sting of mockery. "The human wishes to speak," announced Lord Krell, the Vril ambassador. His tall, thin frame towered nearly 8 feet high, skin the color of polished silver. "Let us all prepare for an emotional outburst, as is their way." Soft laughter rippled through the chamber. Jack kept his face neutral, though his knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of his podium. "Earth has completed the mining operation." "On Titan," Jack said, his voice steady. "We delivered the rare minerals as requested 3 weeks ahead of schedule, and lost how many of your kind in the process?" asked a round, tentacled creature to his right. 4, Jack answered. "Always rushing in without proper planning," Lord Krell said with a dismissive wave of his long 6-fingered hand. "It is the way of young species." Jack swallowed his anger. The humans hadn't been given proper information about the unstable ice sheets. It seemed to happen every time. Critical details conveniently forgotten when briefing the humans. The Council had admitted Earth to their ranks 200 years ago, after humans developed faster-than-light travel. What had seemed like a great honor quickly revealed itself as something else. Humans were the newcomers, the youngsters, the emotional creatures who hadn't spent thousands of years mastering their baser instincts. But they were useful. The mining team succeeded despite the incomplete information provided, Jack said. Which brings me to my next point. Earth requests a seat on the Resource Distribution Committee. This time the laughter was louder. A blue-skinned representative leaned forward. "Commander Wilson, your people have barely mastered space travel. The committee requires a deeper understanding of galactic economics." "We've been trading with the Council for 2 centuries, Jack replied, "and Earth handles the most dangerous resource collection missions." "Because you are willing to risk your lives foolishly," Lord Krell said. "We simply make use of your natural tendencies." The truth hung in the air, unspoken but understood by all. Humans were the daredevils of the galaxy, while ancient species like the Vril had evolved to value caution and careful planning over thousands of years. Humans still possessed the recklessness of youth. They would dive into radioactive moons, explore unstable wormholes, and venture into hostile territories where other species feared to tread, and the Council used this to their advantage. "The request is denied," Lord Krell announced. "But we do have another mission that seems suited to human talents." Of course they did. Jack nodded, knowing what would come next. 3 hours later, Jack left the Council chambers with orders to investigate a strange anomaly that had appeared at the edge of known space. Reports showed unusual energy readings that defied explanation. Several probes had been sent but none returned. Perfect work for expendable humans. Back on his ship, Jack slumped into his captain's chair and rubbed his temples. "That bad, huh?" asked Lisa, his communications officer. Her dark eyes studied his face with concern. "The usual," Jack replied. "They need brave humans to do what they're too smart to try themselves." Lisa snorted. "You'd think after 2 centuries they'd show a little respect." "Why would they?" said Mark, the ship's engineer, without looking up from his console. "We keep doing their dirty work. They have no reason to change." Jack gazed out at the stars through the view screen. Earth had been so excited to join the galactic community. Humans had dreamed of alien friends for generations, imagining advanced beings who would help them solve the problems of disease, hunger, and war. Instead, they found themselves at the bottom of a very tall pecking order, useful only for their willingness to take risks. "We have our orders," Jack said finally. "Set course for the outer rim. There's an anomaly to investigate." "What kind of anomaly?" Lisa asked. "The kind that eats probes, apparently." Jack replied with a grim smile. The journey took 3 weeks. Jack assembled a team of specialists from Earth's finest. Dr. Anna Reed, a brilliant physicist, Tom Martinez, a former soldier with extensive combat experience, and Ben Miller, an expert in alien technologies. Together with Jack's crew, they prepared as best they could for the unknown. The anomaly came into view on the 23rd day. It hung in space like a tear in reality, a shifting, shimmering rift that seemed to both absorb and emit light. "I've never seen readings like these," Anna said, her eyes wide as she studied her instruments. "It's as if space itself is folding." The Council has sent 3 unmanned probes," Jack told the team during their final briefing. "None returned data. We're the first manned mission." "Because we're human and therefore disposable," Tom said bitterly. The former soldier had a deep scar running down his left cheek, a souvenir from a previous simple mission for the Council. Jack couldn't argue with that assessment. "We'll take all possible precautions. The small research vessel will approach while the main ship maintains a safe distance." "Define safe," Ben muttered. Despite their jokes, Jack could see the familiar look in his team's eyes. It wasn't just fear. It was determination. Humans had always pushed boundaries. Long before the stars were within reach, they had climbed the highest mountains, dived to the deepest ocean trenches, and ventured into the harshest deserts. It was both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. The research vessel launched the next morning. Jack, Anna, Tom, and Ben crowded into the small craft as it approached the anomaly. The closer they got, the more instruments failed. First communications, then long-range scanners. "We should turn back," Ben suggested as the ship's systems flickered. "Not yet," Anna said, her eyes fixed on the readings. "There's something familiar about the energy pattern." The anomaly pulsed, expanding slightly. A wave of energy washed over their ship, shutting down all systems momentarily before they hummed back to life. "What was that?" Jack demanded. Anna's face had gone pale. "It scanned us. It's intelligent." Before anyone could respond, a beam of light shot from the anomaly, enveloping their small vessel. Jack felt a strange sensation, as if his mind was being gently examined. Then a voice spoke, not aloud, but directly into their thoughts. "Humans." At last. The team exchanged shocked glances. Jack cleared his throat. "We are representatives of Earth and the Galactic Council. The Council sends humans to do their dangerous work," the voice responded, somehow conveying amusement. "Some things never change." "You know the Council?" Anna asked. "I knew them when your kind still huddled in caves," the voice said. "I have waited, watching, testing." The anomaly pulsed again, and suddenly a pathway seemed to open within it. A tunnel of light leading somewhere beyond. "Enter if you dare," the voice challenged. "Or return to your masters with nothing as they expect." Jack looked at his team. This was exactly the kind of reckless action the Council expected of humans. The smart choice would be to retreat and report. "What do you think?" he asked Anna. She hesitated, then smiled. "When have humans ever backed down from a mystery?" Tom checked his weapon. "I didn't come all this way to turn around." Ben nodded in agreement. Jack took a deep breath and guided their vessel toward the glowing pathway. As they crossed the threshold, he couldn't help but wonder if they were proving the Council right about human recklessness, or if perhaps, for once, that very quality might lead to something the ancient cautious species had missed in their millennia of careful existence. Either way, they were about to find out. Brightness surrounded them as their small vessel entered the anomaly. Jack gripped the controls, though they responded sluggishly at best. The ship shuddered and groaned around them. "Systems failing," Ben called out, his fingers dancing across the flickering control panel. "Power dropping to critical levels." Anna's eyes never left her readings. "This isn't just a spatial anomaly, it's some kind of gateway." A final flash of light blinded them momentarily. When their vision cleared, the team found themselves in what appeared to be normal space again, except nothing was normal about it. Instead of the empty void they had left behind, they now floated in orbit around a massive structure. It resembled a sphere made of interconnected rings, each spinning slowly in different directions. The entire construction must have been at least 10 miles across, gleaming with a dull bronze color that somehow looked both ancient and timeless. "Is that," Tom whispered, pressing his face to the viewport, "artificial?" "Definitely," Anna replied, her voice filled with wonder. "And incredibly old based on the radiation patterns, possibly millions of years." Jack checked their systems. "Communications are back online, but there's no sign of the anomaly we came through. We're trapped here wherever here is." The mysterious voice returned to their minds. "Your vessel requires repair. Approach Dock 7. As if responding to the command, one section of the massive sphere opened, revealing a hangar large enough to accommodate their small ship. Light spilled out, guiding their way. "Could be a trap," Tom said, hand resting on his weapon. Jack considered their options, which were painfully few. "We have no way back and limited life support. We need to take the chance." He guided their damaged vessel toward the opening. As they entered the hangar, they could see that it was part of a much larger docking area, with spaces that could hold thousands of ships. All were empty except for theirs. The moment they landed, their ship's systems fully restored themselves. Power levels returning to normal, Ben reported with surprise. "It's as if something is fixing us remotely." "Prepare to disembark," Jack ordered. "Standard exploration protocols. Tom, you're armed, but weapons stay holstered unless absolutely necessary." The team exited their ship into the cavernous hangar. The air was breathable, the temperature comfortable, suspiciously so, as if the environment had been adjusted specifically for human needs. "Welcome," said the voice, now seeming to come from all around them. "Follow the path." Lights illuminated along the floor, forming a trail that led them deeper into the structure. As they walked, the walls around them seemed to shift subtly, displaying images of stars, planets, and galaxies. "It's showing us the universe," Anna said, mesmerized. "But some of these star systems, I don't recognize them." "They no longer exist," the voice explained. "What you see is history, the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations before your council was born." The path led them to a vast circular chamber. In its center floated a pulsing crystal about the size of a human head. It glowed with an inner light that shifted between colors, blues, purples, and occasional flashes of brilliant gold. "The heart," the voice said simply. Jack approached cautiously. "What is this place? Who are you?" "This is the Nexus, built by those you would call the Ancients. I am its keeper. I have many names, but you may call me Guardian." Anna couldn't take her eyes off the crystal. "Is this some kind of power source?" "It is knowledge, memory, power, potential." The voice paused. "Approach, Dr. Reed." Anna froze. "How do you know my name?" "I learned much when I scanned your vessel. Your minds are fascinating, different from when I last encountered humans." Jack stepped in front of Anna protectively. "Why have you brought us here?" "Because the time approaches. The cycle continues, and humans—" The voice seemed to consider its words carefully. "Humans may be the key this time," Tom scoffed. "The key to what? Being used again? That's all we are to the galaxy, expendable risk-takers." "That is how they use you," the Guardian agreed. "But not what you are." The crystal pulsed more intensely, casting their shadows against the walls. "Dr. Reed," the voice said again. "The heart responds to you. Touch it and see." Jack shook his head. "Anna, I don't think—" "It's okay," she said, stepping forward. I think it wants to show us something important." Before Jack could stop her, Anna reached out and placed her palm against the crystal's surface. The effect was immediate. Anna gasped, her eyes widening. The crystal flared with brilliant light, its glow spreading up her arm and across her body. She didn't appear to be in pain, rather her face showed pure amazement. "Anna," Jack called, rushing forward. "I'm okay," she whispered, not taking her hand from the crystal. "I can see everything." For nearly a minute she remained connected to the heart. When she finally pulled away, Tears streaked down her cheeks. "What did you see?" Ben asked softly. Anna turned to them, her expression haunted. "Earth. I saw Earth burning. I saw war spreading. Across the galaxy, I saw the Vril." She stopped, shaking her head as if trying to clear it. "The heart shows many possibilities," the Guardian explained. "What was, what is, what could be." "Why does it respond to humans?" Jack asked. "What makes us special?" "Your minds are different," the Guardian said. "The ancients who built this place were much like you, curious, adaptable, emotional. Other species like the Vril have evolved toward logic and caution. Their minds cannot connect with the heart as yours can." Tom gestured around them. "So what exactly is all this for?" "The ancients built the Nexus as both a library and a weapon. They foresaw threats from beyond the limits of this galaxy. They created the heart to harness a power you cannot yet comprehend." Jack's mind raced with implications. "And you think humans should control this power?" "I make no such claim," the Guardian replied. "I merely observe that humans can access it. Whether you should is a question you must answer yourselves." Anna had been quiet, still processing what she had seen. Now she looked up sharply. "The Vril know about this place, don't they? That's why they keep humans under their thumb. They're afraid of what would happen if we found it." "The Vril have searched for the Nexus for millennia," the Guardian confirmed. "They discovered fragments of knowledge about its existence but could never locate it or activate its systems. They recognized the potential danger if humans ever mastered the heart's power." "And now we have," Tom said with a grim smile. "No," Anna countered quickly. "What I saw, the destruction, the war, it happens because we try to use this as a weapon. We need to be careful." Jack studied the crystal. "Can we bring this knowledge back to Earth? Share it with our people?" "The heart cannot leave the Nexus," the Guardian said. "But Dr. Reed now carries echoes of its knowledge. What she chooses to share is her decision." A sudden alarm blared through the chamber. The lights around them shifted to red. "We have visitors," the Guardian announced. "The anomaly has reopened." Jack's communications device crackled to life. Lisa's voice came through, tense and urgent. "Commander? A Vril battleship just appeared through the rift. They're demanding to know what we've found. Lord Krell himself is leading them." The team exchanged alarmed looks. "How did they find us so quickly?" Ben asked. Anna's face darkened with understanding. "They were watching. They've been watching all along, waiting for humans to do what they couldn't, locate the Nexus." "What now?" Tom asked, hand moving to his weapon. Jack made a quick decision. "We need to return to our ship. Guardian, will you close the anomaly after we leave? Keep this place hidden?" "I cannot," the voice replied. "The pathway is open. But I can give you time to escape." The ground beneath them trembled slightly. "Go," the Guardian urged. "Return to your people. Prepare them. The knowledge Dr. Reed carries may be the only hope when the true threat arrives." "What threat?" Jack demanded. "What's coming?" But the Guardian's presence seemed to fade. The path they had followed earlier re-illuminated, leading back to their ship. With no choice, they ran. As they reached their vessel, they could hear the distant sound of another ship docking. The Vril had arrived. "Everyone aboard now," Jack ordered, rushing to the controls. They departed the hangar just as the first Vril soldiers appeared. Their ship shot back toward the anomaly, the massive Vril battleship turning to pursue them. "What do we do with what we've learned?" Anna asked quietly as stars streaked past. Jack's expression was grim. "First, we survive long enough to get home. Then we decide whether to use this knowledge or hide it forever." Behind them, the Nexus grew smaller, its bronze surface gleaming against the darkness of space. The prize both humans and Vril had unknowingly sought for centuries had finally been found, and nothing would ever be the same again. Part 3, The Breaking Point. "Incoming fire," Lisa shouted as the ship rocked violently. The Vril battleship had launched its first volley, the energy beams narrowly missing their smaller vessel. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered, gripping his command chair as the ship lurched. Ben, can you give us more speed? Ben's fingers flew across the engine controls. I'm pushing her to maximum, but that battleship is catching up. The anomaly loomed ahead of them, a shimmering tear in space that represented their only escape route. Behind them, the massive Vril ship closed the distance with alarming speed. They're hailing us, Lisa reported. Jack nodded. Put it through. Lord Krell's silver face appeared on the view screen, his normally composed features twisted with rage. Commander Wilson, you will surrender your vessel immediately. You have trespassed on an ancient site of immense importance. Trespassed? Jack laughed without humor. You sent us to investigate this anomaly. Not to enter it, Krell snapped. Return Dr. Reed to us, and the rest of your crew may live. Jack's blood ran cold. They knew about Anna's connection to the heart already. Someone had been feeding them information. How did you? We have been monitoring this sector for centuries, Krell interrupted. Your primitive ship systems are easily accessed. Now surrender, or be destroyed. Jack cut the transmission and turned to Anna. They know about you, about what you experienced. Anna's face had gone pale. The heart showed me something else I didn't mention. The Vril don't just want to study the Nexus, they want to use it as a weapon against other species they consider threats, including humans. We can discuss this after we escape, Tom said urgently. We're about to have bigger problems. The ship shuddered as another blast struck closer. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. Shield generators failing. Ben reported grimly. Jack made a quick decision. Everyone strap in, we're going to try something reckless. Now you're talking like a human, Tom said with a grim smile. Jack took manual control of the ship and cut their engines completely. The sudden loss of thrust caused their vessel to drop below the plane of pursuit. As the confused Vril ship overshot their position, Jack fired the engines at full power, shooting their vessel directly toward the anomaly. They're turning around, Lisa warned. Coming back fast. Too late, Jack said as their ship plunged into the shimmering light of the anomaly. The familiar disorientation followed, systems failing temporarily before they emerged on the other side, back in familiar space. The Vril battleship appeared moments later, still in pursuit. Send an emergency transmission to Earth, Jack ordered. Include everything we've learned about the Nexus. Encrypt it with my personal code. Lisa nodded, quickly composing the message. Sent. But it will take hours to reach Earth from this distance. We need to buy time, Jack said, studying the star chart. There's an asteroid field in the Ceres system. We might lose them there. For the next 6 hours, they led the Vril ship on a desperate chase through space. Their smaller vessel had the advantage of maneuverability, but they couldn't outrun the battleship forever. Every system was pushed to its limit, and the strain was beginning to show. We can't keep this up much longer, Ben warned, his face streaked with sweat as he worked to keep the engines from overheating. That's when they received the message from Earth. Commander Wilson, said Admiral Grant, his weathered face appearing on the view screen. Your message has caused quite a stir. An emergency council meeting has been called. Return to Earth immediately. We'll send an escort to your coordinates. Admiral, we have a Vril battleship in pursuit, Jack explained quickly. Lord Krell himself is commanding it. The Admiral's expression darkened. I'm dispatching 3 heavy cruisers to your location. Hold on, Commander. True to his word, less than an hour later, 3 of Earth's most powerful warships appeared from hyperspace. The Vril battleship, suddenly outgunned, backed off but continued shadowing them from a distance. Under the protection of the Earth fleet, they finally returned home. What they found there shocked them. Earth was in an uproar. Somehow, details about the Nexus and the Vril's true motives had leaked to the public. Protests filled the streets of every major city. Signs denounced the Galactic Council and the centuries of exploitation humans had endured. Humanity first read the largest banners. When they landed at the main spaceport in New Geneva, Jack and his team were immediately escorted to Earth's Central Command. Admiral Grant met them personally. The situation has deteriorated quickly, he explained as they walked through the secured corridors. Someone leaked classified information about your discovery and the Vril's reaction. People are angry. How bad is it? Jack asked. See for yourself. The Admiral gestured to a view screen showing massive crowds outside the Council embassy. The protesters' faces were twisted with anger as they shouted slogans against the Vril and other alien species. This wasn't what I wanted, Anna said quietly. They entered a large conference room where Earth's highest military and civilian leaders had gathered. At the center of the table sat President Davis, her face grave as she studied reports. Commander Wilson, she greeted him. Dr. Reed, you've stirred up quite the hornet's nest. Madam President, Jack acknowledged with a salute. We had no intention of causing a diplomatic incident. Perhaps it was long overdue, she replied. The Vril are demanding we turn over Dr. Reed and all information about the Nexus. The Council has backed their request. And your response? Tom asked boldly. I told them to go to hell, the President said simply. 200 years of being the galaxy's disposable heroes ends today. A murmur of approval went through the room. There's something you should know, Anna said, stepping forward. When I connected with the heart, I saw possible futures. Using the Nexus as a weapon leads to devastation, not just for the Vril, but for Earth as well. The President frowned. Are you suggesting we surrender this advantage? I'm suggesting we use it wisely, Anna replied. The knowledge it contains could transform our civilization without firing a shot. Before the President could respond, an aide rushed into the room. Madam President, there's been an incident at Research Facility 7. Everyone tensed. That was where they had been debriefed, where all the data from their mission was being stored. What kind of incident? The President demanded. An attack, the aide replied. A group calling themselves Humanity First broke in. They've taken hostages and are demanding access to all information about the Nexus. Jack exchanged alarmed glances with his team. Who's leading them? The aide hesitated. A man named Steve Miller. He's broadcasting his demands worldwide. A nearby screen activated, showing the face of a man in his 40s with hard eyes and a determined expression. People of Earth, Miller said, his voice calm but intense. For too long we've been the laughingstock of the galaxy, sent on suicide missions while advanced species mock our courage. The government has discovered a power that could change everything, yet they hesitate to use it. We will not squander this opportunity. Humanity will rise to its rightful place among the stars, by force if necessary. He's insane, Jack muttered. He has no idea what he's dealing with. Unfortunately, he has millions of supporters, Admiral Grant said grimly. This sentiment has been building for decades. The discovery of the Nexus was just the spark. The President turned to Anna. Dr. Reed, what exactly will happen if they try to use this knowledge as a weapon? Anna's eyes filled with the haunted look she'd had since touching the heart. The technology is beyond our understanding. Misusing it could trigger a chain reaction, destabilizing space-time throughout this sector. Billions would die, humans included. Then we need to stop them, Jack said firmly. Before they doom us all. It may already be too late. The President said, pointing to another screen. It showed the Vril battleship entering Earth's orbit, flanked by 5 additional warships. Lord Krell's voice came through the speakers. People of Earth, your actions constitute a direct threat to galactic security. Surrender all data regarding the Nexus immediately, or face the consequences. The room fell silent. They're afraid, Anna realized aloud. For the first time in centuries, the Vril are genuinely afraid of humans. Jack looked from the image of the Vril fleet to Miller's continuing broadcast. 2 sides pushing toward a confrontation that could end in disaster. We've spent centuries being mocked for our courage, he said quietly. Now we need to find a different kind of bravery, the courage to step back from the brink. But as alarms began to sound throughout the building, Jack wondered if anyone was still listening to reason. The breaking point had arrived. Sirens wailed throughout New Geneva as the Vril warships maintained their threatening position in Earth's orbit. On the streets below, crowds grew larger by the hour. What had started as protests had evolved into something more dangerous. People were arming themselves, their faces set with grim determination. In the central command bunker, Jack watched multiple screens with growing alarm. President Davis was locked in emergency talks with her advisors, while military leaders prepared defense plans. The atmosphere was thick with tension. "This is spiraling out of control," Jack said to Anna, who stood beside him studying the data from the Nexus. "Miller's people are gaining access to more sensitive information by the minute." Anna nodded grimly. "And they don't understand what they're dealing with. Look at this." She pointed to her screen where Miller's followers had begun analyzing fragments of the Nexus data. "They're interpreting the heart's energy signature as a weapon's blueprint." Tom approached, his expression serious. "Military just intercepted communications from 3 more Humanity First cells. They've taken control of satellite installations in Africa, South America, and Australia. They're trying to create a global network." "For what purpose?" Jack asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "They think they can use Earth's combined communication arrays to replicate the heart's energy signature," Anna explained. "They believe it will disable Vril technology." "And will it?" Anna's face paled. "It won't just affect the Vril. If they succeed in generating even a fraction of the heart's power without proper containment, it could tear holes in space-time across the solar system." The doors to the command center slid open as President Davis entered, her face drawn with exhaustion. Admiral Grant followed close behind. "We have 30 minutes, the president announced. "The Vril Council has delivered their ultimatum. Either we surrender Dr. Reed and all Nexus data, or they'll begin military operations against Earth." "They can't seriously be threatening a full-scale invasion," Jack said. "That's exactly what they're threatening," Admiral Grant confirmed. "And, based on our intelligence, they've been preparing for this possibility for decades. They have the firepower to do significant damage." "What about our defenses?" Tom asked. "We could put up a fight," the Admiral acknowledged. "But the casualties would be catastrophic on both sides." Anna had been quiet, her fingers dancing across her tablet as she analyzed data. Now she looked up, her eyes filled with sudden urgency. "There's something else," she said. "Miller's group. They've somehow accessed part of my personal notes from the Nexus. They're attempting to activate a resonance pattern that could destabilize the anomaly itself." "Is that even possible?" Jack asked. "The heart showed me it was," Anna confirmed. "If they succeed, it would create a cascading reaction. The anomaly would expand, potentially swallowing our entire solar system." President Davis stared at her. "And they're doing this deliberately?" "No," Anna said, shaking her head. "They think they're creating a defensive shield. They don't understand the consequences." The president turned to Jack. "Commander Wilson, I need options. Military solutions don't appear viable, and diplomacy has failed." Jack studied the various screens showing the crisis unfolding from multiple angles: the Vril fleet, Miller's growing movement, the panicking public. An idea began to form. "We need to speak to both sides simultaneously," he said finally. "Not through diplomatic channels or military threats, but directly to the people, all people." "A broadcast?" the president asked. "Yes, but not from you or any political figure," Jack said. "From Dr. Reed. She's the only one who truly understands what's at stake because she connected with the heart." All eyes turned to Anna, who looked startled. "Me? I'm a scientist, not a public speaker." "That's exactly why it needs to be you," Jack insisted. "This isn't about politics or military strategy. It's about truth." After a moment of consideration, the president nodded. "Make it happen. Use the emergency broadcast system. Global reach. All channels." Technicians worked frantically to set up the broadcast. Anna sat quietly, gathering her thoughts while Jack stood supportively at her side. "What if this doesn't work?" she whispered to him. "Then at least we tried something other than threats and violence," he replied. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't charging forward, it's knowing when to take a step back." 20 minutes later, Anna Reed's face appeared on screens across Earth and was transmitted to the Vril fleet. She looked nervous but determined. "People of Earth and representatives of the Vril Confederation," she began. "My name is Dr. Anna Reed. I am the human who touched the ancient artifact known as the Heart within the Nexus." She took a deep breath before continuing. "What I experienced there wasn't just knowledge or power, it was understanding. The Heart showed me many possible futures, and in nearly all of them where we choose confrontation, both humans and Vril suffer catastrophic losses." Images began to appear beside her, visualizations she had created from her memories of the Heart's visions. They showed devastated planets, shattered fleets, and worse, tears in the fabric of space itself, expanding to consume entire star systems. "The technology of the ancients isn't meant to be a weapon," she continued. "It's meant to be a shield, not against each other, but against a greater threat that lies beyond our galaxy, a threat the ancients foresaw and prepared for." She looked directly into the camera. "To Steve Miller and the Humanity First movement, I understand your anger. For centuries, humans have been treated as second-class citizens of the galaxy, valued only for our willingness to take risks others won't. But the path you're choosing will destroy everything, not elevate humanity." She turned slightly, as if addressing the Vril now. "And to Lord Krell and the Vril Confederation, your fear is justified. The Heart does respond uniquely to human minds, but your response, threats, and military action will only create the very outcome you fear." Anna's voice grew stronger. "The real courage isn't in fighting. Sometimes the greatest courage is in stepping back, in choosing restraint when every instinct screams for action." At Research Facility 7, Miller watched the broadcast, his face troubled as Anna's words resonated with many of his followers. Some had already lowered their weapons, uncertain. In the lead Vril warship, Lord Krell observed with narrow eyes, noting the reaction of his officers to the human woman's unexpected wisdom. Anna continued, "I propose a different path. Neither surrender nor war, but collaboration. The Heart showed me that humans and Vril working together could unlock the Nexus's true purpose, a shield for all sentient life in our galaxy." She leaned forward, her expression intense. "True courage isn't just risking your life. Sometimes the braver choice is to risk your pride, to admit fear, to extend a hand rather than a fist." In the central command bunker, Jack watched various monitors showing reactions. On the streets, the crowds had grown quieter, listening. In the satellite facilities, some of Miller's followers had stopped their work on the Resonance project. "It's working," he whispered. Anna's broadcast continued. "I am willing to share everything I learned from the Heart, with both humans and Vril, under the condition that we form a joint research team with equal representation. No secrets, no advantages, no exploitation." She paused, then spoke her final words with quiet authority. "The ancients chose extinction rather than misuse the power they had created. Are we wiser than they were? Can we find the courage not to fight, but to collaborate, to put aside centuries of mockery and resentment for the sake of all our futures?" As her broadcast ended, silence fell across command centers, streets, and spaceships alike. For several tense minutes, no one moved. Then Jack's communication device signaled an incoming message from the Vril flagship. "Lord Krell is requesting to speak with Dr. Reed," Lisa reported, her voice tinged with disbelief. Almost simultaneously, a message came through from Research Facility 7. "Miller wants to talk," Tom said. "He's asking for a ceasefire and negotiations." Jack exchanged a look with Anna, whose shoulders sagged with relief. "It seems," President Davis said quietly, "that you've given both sides something they've lacked." "For a very long time, Dr. Reed." "What's that?" Anna asked. "A face-saving way to retreat from the brink," the president replied. "Sometimes that's all anyone really needs." Outside, the first Vril shuttle descended toward Earth, not carrying soldiers, but diplomats. The long standoff was ending not with an explosion of violence, but with the harder, braver path of dialogue. Jack placed a hand on Anna's shoulder. "Turns out the true test of courage wasn't what any of us expected." Anna nodded. "The Heart knew that all along. Perhaps that's why it chose humans, not for our recklessness, but for our capacity to surprise, even ourselves. 1 month after Anna Reid's broadcast, the landscape of human-Vril relations had transformed dramatically. The massive conference room in New Geneva hummed with activity as scientists, diplomats, and military personnel from both species worked side by side. Holographic displays showed the Nexus from various angles, with teams analyzing different aspects of the ancient structure. Jack watched from a balcony overlooking the operation, still amazed by how quickly things had changed. Beside him stood President Davis, her expression thoughtful. If someone had told me 2 months ago that we'd have Vril scientists working alongside humans as equals, I would have called them delusional, the president said. Jack nodded. Fear and respect often look similar from a distance. Speaking of which, the president said, gesturing toward the entrance where Lord Krell was arriving, flanked by 2 aides rather than armed guards, a significant change from his previous visits to Earth. The tall, silver-skinned Vril ambassador moved through the room, drawing stares but no longer the fearful deference of before. He spotted Jack and made his way up to the balcony. "Commander Wilson," Lord Krell greeted him with a formal bow, a human gesture he had recently adopted. "I trust the joint security protocols are satisfactory?" "They are," Jack confirmed. "Our teams have established a perimeter around the anomaly. No unauthorized vessels will approach the Nexus." Lord Krell seemed pleased. "Excellent. And Dr. Reid? How is her work progressing?" "See for yourself," Jack said, pointing to the center of the activity where Anna stood surrounded by both human and Vril scientists. Anna had become the natural leader of the joint research effort. Her direct connection to the heart gave her insights no one else possessed, and her balanced approach had earned respect from both sides. Currently, she was explaining a complex energy pattern displayed on a large holographic projection. "The heart isn't just a repository of knowledge," Anna was saying. "It's a key to understanding the very fabric of space-time. The ancients discovered that reality is far more malleable than we realized. A Vril scientist, one who had previously dismissed humans as primitive, was now hanging on her every word, asking insightful questions that Anna answered patiently." "Remarkable," Lord Krell murmured. "In all our history, I cannot recall a collaboration of this nature." "Fear is a powerful motivator," President Davis noted. Lord Krell's expression changed subtly, the Vril equivalent of a wry smile. "Indeed. Though I would suggest that the prospect of mutual destruction was not the only factor." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" "Dr. Reid's approach was unexpected," Lord Krell admitted. "For millennia, the Vril have valued caution above all else. We observed how humans would rush headlong into danger, and we deemed this reckless, primitive." He paused, watching Anna guide her team through a complex simulation. "We failed to recognize that there are different forms of courage," he continued. "The courage to fight, yes, but also the courage to extend trust, to collaborate rather than dominate, to admit error." President Davis seemed surprised by this philosophical turn. "That's quite an evolution in thinking, Lord Krell." "Evolution is necessary for survival," the Vril replied simply. "Static species do not endure." Their conversation was interrupted as Tom Martinez approached, tablet in hand. Since the crisis, Tom had been appointed head of security for the Joint Research Project, a position that required him to work directly with Vril security forces. The former soldier who once harbored deep resentment toward the Vril now coordinated daily operations with them. "We've completed the analysis of Miller's network," Tom reported. "Most of his followers have stood down, but we've identified 3 cells still attempting to access Nexus data." "Are they a threat?" Jack asked. Tom shook his head. "Not anymore. Their access has been cut off and we're monitoring them closely. Miller himself has been surprisingly cooperative since meeting with Dr. Reid." "Another unexpected development," Lord Krell observed. "Anna has that effect on people," Jack said with a smile. Below them, the research area shifted as a new hologram appeared, a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with several points highlighted in red. Anna's voice carried up to them. These are the locations the Heart identified as potential breach points, she explained to the gathered scientists. The ancients detected something they called the encroachment, a force or entity from outside our reality that periodically attempts to enter our universe. The scientists, both human and Vril, studied the map with intense focus. The Nexus was created not as a weapon against other species, Anna continued, but as a detection and defense system against this external threat. The Heart responds to human neural patterns because our brains are structurally similar to those of the ancients, which explains why the Vril could never activate it, a human scientist remarked. Precisely, Anna confirmed, but operating the system requires both human intuition and Vril precision. Neither species could do it alone. Jack turned to Lord Krell. Convenient how that worked out, isn't it? Lord Krell's eyes narrowed slightly. You suggest this was planned? That our species were meant to collaborate? The ancients were advanced beyond our comprehension, Jack said with a shrug. Maybe they foresaw not just the external threat, but the internal conflicts as well. President Davis checked her watch. The council representatives will be arriving soon. Are we prepared for the presentation? Anna has been rehearsing for days, Jack confirmed. This will change everything. 2 hours later, the full Galactic Council had assembled in New Geneva's Grand Assembly, the first time the entire council had ever convened on Earth. Representatives from 32 spacefaring civilizations watched as Anna Reed took the central podium, flanked by Jack and Lord Krell in a powerful symbol of human-Vril cooperation. Distinguished representatives, Anna began, her voice steady despite the momentous occasion. Today marks not just a new chapter in relations between humans and the Vril, but a turning point for our entire galaxy. The holographic displays activated, showing the Nexus and the mysterious red points scattered throughout the galaxy map. What I am about to share comes directly from the ancient repository known as the Heart, Anna continued. For millions of years, our galaxy has been protected by a network of defenses established by a civilization that predates all of ours. They faced a threat from beyond the boundaries of our reality, a threat that returns in cycles spanning thousands of years. Murmurs spread through the assembly as the implications sank in. According to the Heart's calculations, Anna said, her voice growing more solemn, the next incursion is due within the next century. The chamber fell silent. The good news, she continued, is that the ancients left us the tools to detect and defend against this threat. The Nexus is one of several such installations scattered throughout the galaxy. Together they form a shield, but only if activated properly. She gestured to Lord Krell. The Vril have contributed their unparalleled precision and technological expertise. Then to Jack. Humans have provided the necessary neural compatibility and adaptive thinking. Neither could have succeeded alone. Anna stepped back, allowing Lord Krell to address the council. For centuries, the Vril ambassador began, we have viewed humans as impulsive and reckless, qualities we viewed as dangerous. We now recognize these traits as valuable when balanced with our own tendencies toward excessive caution. He turned to face the human delegation. We mocked humans for their courage, never realizing that our mockery stemmed from our own fear, not of humans themselves, but of what their unpredictability represented. The council representatives watched in astonishment as Lord Krell formally bowed to the humans. On behalf of the Vril Confederation, I extend not just an apology, but an invitation. The new Nexus Treaty will establish equal status for Earth within the Galactic Council, with joint leadership of the Ancient Defense Initiative. Jack stepped forward next. Humanity accepts this invitation not as conquerors or victims, but as partners. The courage to fight is valuable, but so is the courage to cooperate, to set aside pride and work toward a common goal. As the council erupted in discussion, Anna caught Jack's eye and smiled. They had come so far from that small research vessel entering the anomaly just weeks ago. Later, as the formal proceedings ended and the various delegates mingled, Lord Krell approached Jack in a quiet corner of the reception hall. There is something I have wished to ask you, Commander, the Vril said, his voice lower than usual. What's that? Jack asked. Lord Krell seemed to hesitate, uncharacteristic for a Vril. Why did humans never retaliate? For centuries we treated your kind as inferiors, used you for dangerous missions, mocked your nature. Yet when you finally discovered power that could have given you dominance, you chose partnership instead. Jack considered the question carefully. I think because deep down we always knew something you're only just learning. And what is that? That true strength isn't found in domination, Jack said. It's found in connection, in the space between species, between ideas. He smiled slightly. Perhaps that's what the ancients understood all along. Lord Krell was quiet for a long moment before responding. Perhaps we mocked humans for centuries because, in truth, we feared what you might become. His silver eyes met Jack's. We never expected you would become our allies. Together they looked out at the gathering, humans and Vril and representatives from dozens of worlds, no longer separated by ancient prejudices, but united by a new understanding. The war that nearly began had transformed into something far more powerful, a peace built not on fear or dominance but on the most courageous act of all, reaching across the divide to a former adversary and finding common ground. That, Jack realized, was the greatest discovery of all.